We're all told the same lie. Hustle, be productive, optimize, and fill every single second of your day. Our culture is completely allergic to stillness. We treat boredom like it's a disease, something to be cured by swiping, scrolling, and scheduling every last free moment. But what if that's all wrong? What if the real secret to being more creative, more productive, and actually feeling alive is to do the exact opposite? I was completely burned out. My brain felt like a web browser with 100 tabs open, all playing different videos at once. My creativity was gone, and my focus was totally shot. So, I decided to try a pretty radical experiment. For 7 days straight, I was going to embrace total boredom. No endless phone scrolling, no nonstop podcasts, no background TV, just nothing. Scientists say this can unlock a hidden network in your brain, and trust me, what happened was not at all what I expected. Before I get into how the week went, you need to understand why I would even try this. It sounds completely backward, but there's a powerful scientific reason to let your brain just chill. See, our brains have two main ways of working. The first is the get it done mode. That's the part you use when you're focused on a task, answering an email, watching a video, you name it. But there's another, much quieter network that scientists call the default mode network. This is the part that lights up when we're not focused on the outside world. It kicks in when we're doing nothing in particular, showering, staring out a window, or just letting our minds drift. This is the home of mind wandering and daydreaming. For years, people thought this was just your brain being lazy, but it turns out the default mode is incredibly important. It's where our brain connects random ideas, thinks about the past, and makes plans for the future. It's basically the engine of creativity. Think about it. When do your best ideas really show up? It's almost never when you're staring at a spreadsheet, right? It's in the shower, on a long walk, or that moment right before you fall asleep. That's your default mode network going to work. There was even a famous study where researchers had people do a painfully boring task, copying numbers out of a phone book. Afterward, that group came up with way more creative ideas than the group that didn't have to suffer through the boredom. The boredom actually primed their brains for creativity. So, my theory was simple. If I could force myself into this state for a week, could I reboot my own brain? The first 48 hours were, to put it lightly, awful. The rules were simple. Anytime I had a free moment, I couldn't fill it with a distraction. No phone while waiting in line for coffee. No podcast while doing the dishes. No music on my walk. I just had to exist. And it was physically uncomfortable. I felt this constant, nagging itch to do something. My hand would twitch for my phone, which I deliberately left in another room. The silence was so loud it was almost ringing. My mind felt like a caged animal, pacing back and forth and rattling the bars, desperate for a hit of stimulation. I realized just how deep the habit of distraction goes. We don't just use our phones to connect or get info. We use them to escape the discomfort of being alone with our own thoughts. On day 2, I literally found myself just staring at a wall, and I felt absolutely nothing. No deep thoughts, no creative sparks. Just a flat, dull emptiness. It was then I realized that boredom isn't just a lack of things to do. It's a real emotional state. And for me, it was deeply unsettling. It makes you confront everything you're normally running from. All the anxieties, the unanswered questions, the vague feeling that something isn't right. It was pretty clear this was going to be harder than I thought. Around day 3, something started to change. That intense, restless feeling began to fade, and it was replaced by a kind of calm. My mind was still wandering, but it wasn't frantic anymore. It was more of a gentle drift. While I was washing the dishes, my thoughts floated back to a conversation from a week ago, and I suddenly understood what the other person was really trying to say. While walking through the park, without headphones, I started noticing things I'd never seen before, like the specific pattern of bricks on a building or the way the wind moved through one particular tree. My thoughts started to have more of a story to them. Instead of the usual chaotic buzz of to-do lists and worries, long-forgotten memories started bubbling to the surface. I thought about my childhood, old friends, and goals I had set for myself years ago that I had totally forgotten about. This is exactly what the default mode network is for. It's designed for self-reflection, for sifting through our own lives to make sense of them. I started carrying a little notebook with me, because small ideas and observations were starting to pop into my head at the most random times. They weren't world-changing breakthroughs yet, but it was something. A funny line for a story here. a possible solution to a small problem at work there. It felt like my brain was finally, slowly, waking up. It's incredible how much we miss when our brains are always busy. It really makes me wonder, when was the last time you let yourself be truly bored without reaching for a distraction? Let me know in the comments, because I'm genuinely curious what your experience with it is like. The big breakthrough came on day 5. I'd been stuck on this personal project for months. I had all the pieces, but for the life of me, I couldn't see how they fit together. I'd brainstormed, I'd made mind maps, I tried to force a solution, and nothing. On the afternoon of day 5, I went for a long, aimless walk. I wasn't even thinking about the project. I was just looking at the clouds, wondering what to make for dinner. And then, it just happened. Out of nowhere, the entire solution clicked into place in my head. It wasn't a slow realization. It was a sudden, crystal clear flash of insight. The connections just made themselves. I saw the whole thing, from start to finish, perfectly assembled. It was that eureka moment you always hear about. Research shows that this kind of mental drifting, the very thing boredom creates, is amazing for solving problems. When you step away, your subconscious mind keeps chipping away at it. Finding connections your focused, conscious mind was too rigid to see. It wasn't just that one idea, either. Over the next couple of days, the quality of my thoughts just felt different, deeper, more connected. My creativity wasn't just back. It felt stronger and easier to tap into. It wasn't that boredom created the idea, but it created the perfect conditions for the idea to finally show up. It cleared the runway so the plane could finally land. So, after 7 days, did I toss my phone in a river and become a hermit? No, of course not. But this experiment completely changed my relationship with technology and with my own mind. The biggest thing I learned is that boredom isn't an absence of something. It's a state that gives you something. It's a mental reset button. It lowers stress and wipes out that feeling of mental fatigue. Now, I've started building what I call strategic boredom into my day. I'll intentionally leave my phone behind when I go for a walk. I'll sit in my backyard for 5 minutes with nothing to do. I've learned to see that urge for distraction not as a need I have to fill, but as a signal from my brain that it needs a moment to switch off and go into default mode. This constant pressure to be on and productive is a total myth. Rest isn't the opposite of work, it's a crucial part of it. Real creativity doesn't come from the hustle. It comes from the quiet moments in between. It's born not in the frantic rush of information, but in the slow burn of just thinking. We live in a world that is screaming for our attention. In a world like that, choosing boredom is a quiet act of rebellion. It's about taking back your own attention and giving yourself the permission to simply be with your own thoughts. You don't have to do a full 7-day detox. Start small. The next time you have 2 minutes to spare, fight the urge to pull out your phone. Just stare out a window. Let your mind wander. You might be shocked at where it takes you. By constantly running from boredom, we're not just missing out on a few good ideas. We're missing out on a deeper connection with ourselves. We're missing the chance to process our lives, to really hear our own thoughts, and to figure out what actually matters to us. Boredom isn't the enemy. It's the fertile ground where our best ideas, and maybe even our truest selves, can finally start to grow.